Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Keith with the Tulsa Moto Club, and today we're going to get started on the fiberglass portion of the SR seat build. Okay, so in the last video we made the mold for the SR seat build. I'll be sure to link that down below in the description in case you need to check it out. With that said, the mold's complete and it's time to start laying down fiberglass. So I've never actually worked with fiberglass before, so I'm halfway winging it here. I did do some quick research on the internet, but in about just as much time I realized that the best way for me to learn is to just try it. So before I did anything, I decided to follow the advice of a friend, and I added a layer of foil tape in hopes that it would help with the assist of releasing the mold after all is said and done. Also, I didn't mention it in part 1, but you'll also need some sort of release wax. There are waxes made just for this purpose. However, in a pinch, you can use WD-40 or regular old car wax. I myself will be using the regular car wax. Just make sure you apply several coats of whatever medium you choose. I ended up doing about 6 coats myself. If you're doing a project like this, make sure you use some safety equipment. The fiberglass and the resin can both be harmful to you, so don't be dumb. Now that it's all waxed and ready, let's move on to the fiberglass. I follow the directions on the can of resin and make sure that I follow the proper ratios for resin to hardener, and then I cut up some fiberglass mat and I got started. Alright, so I finished laying down the fiberglass, and to be honest, I'm not really feeling too confident about it. I had a lot of issues working with the resin and everything, and like I said, it was my first time, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of figuring it out. But we're going to go ahead and let it cure overnight, and we'll take a look at it in the morning and go from there. Alright, so it's a new day, and the first attempt at the fiberglass work didn't really go as planned. I kind of expected that. Take a look. At first I thought I'd try to salvage it, but then I figured it'll be just as much effort to start over, and I wasn't too happy with the way the mold turned out on the first one, so what I've actually done is already created a new one. It's all waxed up and ready to go, and I've already got fiberglass cut and ready, so we're going to lay that down and hope that it works out better. So take 2, here we go. So the biggest problem I had on the first attempt, like I said, was that the resin was hardening too quickly for me. So with the second attempt, I'm going to go with smaller batches of resin, and I'm going to cut the fiberglass mat into smaller, more manageable pieces, hoping that that will probably yield a much neater finished result. And speaking of results, hey, what's going on everyone? It's another new day, and the new coats of fiberglass should be all dried and ready to go. We should be able to take it off at this point and start making our final touches and final shaping and everything. So let's go ahead and take a look. I have to say that the second attempt is way better than the first one, and I'm not trying to jump to conclusions or anything and call it perfect by any means. Honestly, it's still pretty rough, but I'm pretty sure I can make it work out for me. That's the next video. Now the next thing to do is add a few layers of fiberglass to the underside to reinforce the whole thing. Like I've mentioned a few times, I'm totally new to working with fiberglass, and I was really intimidated by this process at the very beginning. And I know that there are different tools and products and different methods I could use, all to end up with better results. And at this point, I can say that I enjoy this process a whole lot more than I feel intimidated by it. So I'll probably be experimenting with all that stuff later in the future. This may be my first fiberglass project, but it's definitely not going to be my last. And if you have any pointers for me, just let me know down in the comments below. The last thing to do before ending this video is to mark where we want to trim this fiberglass at. That way it fits on the bike right. Once we mark that out, we'll just use the angle grinder, cut off the excess, and we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Now you'll notice that I didn't trim all the way to the line that I marked. I I did that intentionally, that way that there's some extra space there just in case I mess up or anything when I'm doing the next step of the process. Once the next step of the process is done, we will trim it to the final length. And that's it for part 2 of the SR seat build. And in part 3, we'll take it from where it is now to being smooth, primed, and ready for paint. Also, now having gotten to this point, I don't need the frame of the bike anymore, so that means that I can start taking everything else off of the frame so that I can send it off to be powder coated, as well as cleaning up the engine and a lot of the other little tasks that needed to be done before this bike can be finished. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already, that way you don't miss out on any of the future videos I put out. And if you want even more Tulsa Moto Club content, I'll be sure to link the website and all of our other social media down below. And again, if you have any fiberglass advice for me, or any questions at all, or just want to say hey what's up, make sure to hit me down in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. Later. There's a big flying thing in my garage. I'm terrified.